after. So I just want to welcome everybody to our March Solid Waste Advisory Commission meeting. Happy spring. To everybody, spring has clearly sprung. Way sprung. So the roll call, it looks like we have two commissioners I have not heard from that are not yet on the call. Commissioner Madigu and Commissioner Dawkins. I am expecting them to show up, so hopefully they will. But we'll move on. So you all have the agenda in front of you. I'm going to add a fifth item, which is the budget, the upcoming budget, and Kenny, Mr. Battle will give us a little bit more information about what's happening with the hearings on the budget. So glad to see you and welcome again, everybody. So we're going to start out with the really exciting activity, another exciting commission activity that we participated in, and maybe Dave would talk a little bit about it, but four of us went out and participated at the organics facility, sorting or food waste from yard waste from trash. And I've told several people about doing this, and I have to say they all look sort of mortified. I thought, well, you're clearly not really into the nitty gritty of composting and trash. But anyway, no one batted an eye about it. So Dave, maybe you could tell us a little bit about that day. That was a very interesting day.
Yeah, we all got out there around 8:30. We worked through the morning, and then some of us worked part of the afternoon. There were it was a pretty relatively nice day today. That day it had been followed by or preceded by some rainy weather, but we managed to have a pretty good day there. There were 3 truckloads of waste that was from, I think, Monday, that they had left on the ground close to the place where it was going to be sorted. And then what they did is they had a front end loader or something that kind of scattered parts of the load out onto this. I guess it's it's a hard surface, I guess.
Like an asphalt surface.
Yeah. And then what the group did was was it?
Tarmac.
Tarmac, okay. So what we did then is we had to go through sorting, pulling out what we thought was food waste, the contamination, which we found quite a bit of plastic, and then some of the yard waste or yard trimmings. And then those were separated, and that was done several times for each load. And then there were 3 loads. So it took us into the afternoon to get it all completed. We were told that MES is going to weigh each of those components. So we'll have an idea as to what's coming in, at least from those 3 particular loads. And we're not even sure. I think we'll find out exactly where those loads came from. That's kind of...
May I interrupt for a second?
So Barbara was there too. So yeah, go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, because I mean, you said we were told that MES will weigh the 3, and that's absolutely correct. At the end of the day, we were told that. Unfortunately, at the beginning of the day, at least some of us, me included, did not appreciate that we were supposed to separate out the food wastes from the yard wastes. And so several of us spent the morning separating out the trash, but didn't realize that we should separate out the food waste. So I fear that any such measure is going to be significantly underrepresented in food wastes.
Well, Barbara, I can tell you that I understood that we were supposed to be picking up the food waste, and I picked up a lot of food waste.
Yeah, eventually I did, but at the beginning...
I mean, we went up, and Bill also did, I think, went up and down the rows and checked them. So where you left it, we picked it up. So I don't think there was anything that was unattended. And I think that Steve made sure that was the case.
Right. Within reason. I mean, there's
Yeah,
obviously
within reason.
microscopic pieces we didn't get. And I thought they were actually during the lunch break, I thought they took some of it already and had started to weigh it as they had collected it because they were kind of running out of bins, so to speak. So but we didn't get any data from what they had gotten.
You know,
So I
one of
think-
the things, I was gonna say, one of the things I think makes it a little more difficult when you're doing that is a lot of the compost is in biodegradable bags, but there were some that were in plastic bags. And so we had to literally sometimes pull these bags apart to see what was in the bags. Occasionally there was, I've even found one or two bags that had can or a bottle in the bag. So you really had to be kind of careful. Otherwise you really wouldn't have something that's really accurate. So it did take time. It was a little bit smelly, not too bad. One place where they had some old crabs, that was kind of stinky. But overall, it really wasn't too bad. And I think probably because it was in the middle of spring, we didn't have a lot of heat yet. So it wasn't too bad. But I think it was really something that I think we all gained more information about exactly what's happening. And I think it'll be a good thing for some other people to do the sort at some point.
I think
Well-
also it's informative in the sense of what I feel should be communicated to the residents, that a lot of people will take a bag and put in there their food wastes, the plastic from their takeout lunch, along with the plastic ketchup container, the plastic fork, the plastic lid from their coffee cup, whatever, but all sorts of non-compostable stuff mixed in. And often even you'll find a compostable bag inside of which is a Walmart, i.e. non-compostable bag with stuff. So people don't really fully appreciate what should go into the compost stream and what screws it up.
Yeah, and I think that it becomes really obvious how everything you do really does make a difference. So, you're tossing things in your bins and you think, what difference does it make? But when you're out there seeing literally what's in it, you see it makes a really big difference. And so yeah, I think it was a very instructional, interesting exercise for us to see this. And like I think Dave mentioned, and Barbara, the issue with the plastic, that was very clear. That had been expressed to us at another point, that there was a lot of concern about how the plastic is getting into the final product, the leaf grow and the leaf grow gold, because it gets shredded. And as they mentioned, there's a lot of stuff just tied up in plastic because, and I think we've had some discussion about this before, but how some of the grocery store green bags, people think that they're environmentally something or other, but they're really just plastic. They're not a bio bag, a bag that is compostable. So anyway, I think it really underscored that. And also, I mean, the thing is too, you realize it's other human beings whose job it is to do this. It's not normally the commission member's job to go do this waste sort, but the staff do it. So, I mean, everyone has to be involved in this understanding what's in this material.
I would say observationally too, it looks like people are buying a lot more potatoes and limes than they ever seem to end up using. Because there seemed to be a predominance of a lot of potatoes, and I guess they buy a whole bag of limes, use one, and the rest end up rotting in the refrigerator and they toss them.
And a lot of rotten fruit I saw. So anyway, I'm not sure, and Kevin came out to support us, so
Yeah.
it was nice to see you there. He did not, I will say, he did not jump in into it.
I just
He had
did
his
some
good,
observations.
he was
but,
just he was not a participant, he was an observer for that
But
day.
Nancy, sorry, one thing I noticed was I saw this delivery from Compost Crew came from Gettysburg, and I noticed that the materials delivered were like all biodegradable compostable material.
Really?
Yep. Mhm.
Huh?
So
Well,
it was good. Yeah, I took some photos of it, and I can share it with you.
so
Kevin,
Dave
you-
has been involved in some of the environmental politics of University Park, and there's been a lot of discussion about using or not using, or the town not paying for these bags. But it is very clear, and even from the research I've seen, is when the public sector supports residents, even by providing them, the use is higher. It seems that really does help and make a difference. And we could see, the plastic. So anyway, Dave, any last thoughts on that? And I don't know when we'll get the results, but I presume by the next meeting.
Yeah, I guess that, I don't know, that we were just told we would get the results at some point, but the only thing I want to say about you were mentioning about University Park where I live, and the fact that our council has decided they don't want to pay for these bio bags anymore. And one of the things I would like to do would be to have two sorts, one in sometime in the spring when we can look at what's coming in from University Park, which we think will be fairly uncontaminated, and then several months from now, and I suspect we're going to see plastic starting to come in, but I'd like to be able to document that because we might be able to go back to University Park and say, you really need to change, go back to the bio bags, but it'd also be a good information to the county in general.
So you may want to have the powers that be at University Park contact the Resource Recovery Division to talk about if they could make that happen. Because it involves, as we discovered, it takes a whole day of a number of staff. So whether the town might be willing to help pay for that, I'm not sure how that would work, but it clearly takes, 3, 4, 5, 6 people all day sorting that trash. And maybe for one load, it would only take, maybe it would be half of that. But
And
it
I might
would,
be able to get some of the council members or some people from town to come do it, I think.
yeah, it'd be great. Well, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. But
Well,
they'll
they
need
do-
one person at least to spread, like Andy was out there spreading. And so, but yeah, I would be instructional for the county as well to see what impact actually providing the bags. Or maybe it could be that the county could contract with, the producer to get them at cost or something. So, Bill?
MES does that quarterly, at least that's what I thought I heard Steve saying, that they do it quarterly as a standing procedure. So
Sort, yes.
yeah,
I
so I
think
don't know
they're
if that can be worked in with, the other thing or not.
I think they're supposed to. I'm not sure that they've actually stayed on that schedule or not. Do you know, Kevin? Because the last one was in the fall. I don't think there's been a winter one. Has there?
Yes, I think so. I think so. Yes, because they're doing it on a quarterly basis. That's correct.
Okay, so then I'd like to see the winter sort. I don't know that we have that. If that's possible to get that. Is that possible? Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, great.
I
Thank
will
you.
get the report. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Then we'll share that with everybody. Thank you. Okay, great. Okay, so Kevin, so we'll go to, I see Marilyn's not here. So can you I presume you can do the updates, Resource Recovery Division? Thank you for sending the notes.
Sure.
That's really helpful. There's a lot of stuff.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners. Couple of updates for the Better Bug Bill. Concerns regarding the bill can now be reported via PGC 311, including recycling for multifamily and businesses, which was effective last March 8th. So all issues pertaining to the Better Bug Bill can now be reported via PGC 311.
That's great. That's really
How is
good.
how is that being announced to residents?
Kevin?
I
Is
think
it-
it was, sorry, what was
Is
your
it?
question?
Is that being announced to residents? And just that 311 would be where you come, like, I don't know if Dave, you were going to mention it when at that sort, Dave and I went out to lunch at a local restaurant, Mrs. K's, whatever, which somebody there said had good wraps. And there the woman wanted to put Dave's other half of his sandwich in a plastic bag. And we said, wait a minute, you're not allowed to do that. And she said, oh, yes, because we have takeout here. We're allowed to do it. And we actually didn't have the legislation in front of us. So it wasn't until coming back and later looking at the legislation that it sees that restaurants are specifically included in the Better Bag Bill. But we would have, I mean, we could have right then called 311 and said, is this right? Could you talk to this woman and explain it to her? We had no, as commissioners, we had no idea to call 311 about this. So I don't see how Joe Q Public would have any idea if they see a restaurant handing out a plastic bag or any store handing out a plastic bag, that they would know to contact 311.
I believe, Barbara, that our communications team is in the process of drafting messages regarding that 311 channel on reporting issues related to the Better Bag Bill.
And is that just communicated to the DOE sprout, or is it actually communicated to real average people?
It's going to be communicated countywide for people to report on the bag
I mean,
bill issue.
in a mailing?
I will have to ask Barbara about it. But usually our comms team use social media sites and our website to disseminate information. But I will clarify if there will be mailings related to.
Yeah, because I think unfortunately, since even the restaurants don't know the rules, the communication is really lacking.
Kevin, do you know if 311 operators have been informed that this is coming? And I raise the issue because I've had a number of issues, most recently as today, where I call 311 concerning the failure of the vendor to pick up the compost bags and the yard waste yesterday. And when I called and reported it on 311 this morning, the operator at 311 told me, oh, well, you can't report for your street. You can only report for your house. I said, excuse me? I said, it's a failure of the whole neighborhood where they didn't pick up. And you want individuals from every home to call? That's ridiculous.
But I think that's their policy.
I understand that's a ridiculous policy.
Absolutely.
If it's a street and you know it's a pickup of trash, why can't they take a street report that rather than an individual home report? They want 55 residents to call instead of one. No wonder the service doesn't work.
So
Kevin?
Charles, so residents can report on missed collection covering the whole street. That was what our collection manager said. Now
And that
we will
message needs to be conveyed to the operators that answer the phone, because she fought me when I said, you're not going to take it. She said, I'll make a note, but I can't take it. I can only report your individual resident.
And I've
So,
gotten that also.
I have conveyed your suggestion to our manager, and he will coordinate with our 311 staff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, Kevin, keep,
Okay, moving
going.
on the compost rollout. So as I mentioned before, we have concluded the rollout last January 31st, and a total of about 165,000 carts and bins were distributed then. Right now, RRD is conducting outreach events through various HOA and community-based meetings to encourage them to utilize the carts for the food waste and also increase their participation. But based on our inspections visually, for example, Marlene has been going around and she observed that participation rate is still low. So RRD would like to seek your support or insights to come up with messages that will up the participation rate for the household uh, food scrap collection program. And we would like to
We-
discuss with the concerned
Hold on.
committee on this. Okay.
We would love to be involved in creating such messages.
So yeah,
Kevin, can I ask, are you all keeping a record of the takebacks, the calls for you all to take carts back? And I think you're, in some cases, you are coming and getting them? Is that the
Yeah,
case?
yes. And based on initial numbers, we're getting less than 1,000 returns for the cards.
In total?
Yes, out of the 160,000 cards that were distributed. But then we make an effort to ask them to, have the cards, use them, but there are still some residents who are adamant at returning the cards. So that's why we're doing the outreach.
Okay.
Kevin, I have a
Other
question.
questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
On this number 2, the list or dates of, I guess, presentations or some type of event to the HOAs and to also, I think it says community-based events. Do you have a list, or can you provide a list so that we might occasionally, some of us might be able to attend one of these events?
Sure, Dave, I will. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
We have a spokesperson for your program coming to the Civic Association tomorrow night to make a presentation on the composting program.
Can I
then
get
the-
the
That's
Go
in
ahead.
Largo.
sorry.
Kevin, go ahead, sorry.
Charles, could you give me some details about that event so I can request our resource person?
I'm trying to remember who the contact person is from your shop. Is there a Mr. Wilson? I didn't arrange this. One of the other
Yes.
people did. Mr. Wilson.
Ran,
Mr. Wilson is coming out, Largo Civic Association, tomorrow night at 7:30. We meet at the apartments on Harry Truman Drive. So
Yeah,
he will be
Mr.
there
Ra-
at 7:30 tomorrow night.
Okay, yeah. Mr. Wilson is the person in charge.
That's
that's-
Andy?
Randall, yes, that's
I-
correct.
Kevin, I noticed that in the last sprout, they mentioned about the community partners meeting going to be held on April 4th. Is that one of the topics that's going to be presented by DOE as to the, providing additional information to those community partners that are listed are participating, to let them know about, the compost rollout and that?
I believe so, Bill. Yep, that's one of the topics to be
Okay,
presented. Yep.
great. Because that's a well-attended event, at least it used to be.
Okay.
So Kevin, we can refer the task to our Outreach and Education Committee. So Commissioner Dawkins can follow up with that if she's okay with that. And Barbara's involved in that as well. And Mr. Cole, I believe.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, I'll coordinate with Nyla.
Great. Okay, terrific. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, moving on, for the 10-year plan, the committee hearing was held last March 14, and we received comments and suggestions from the council. The council also shared with us your comment, and we were asked to respond to the comments that you raised in the document. So right now, the division is providing some inputs. We are providing the narratives. We are preparing the narratives in response to your questions. But basically, the questions revolve around our methane reduction plan, reuse center, and the food waste management program, which you highlighted in your comments. So that's what we are working on.
And the
The status-
haulers.
And the haulers as well. Yes.
Mhm.
So the committee decided to put on hold the 10-year plan pending our responses to your questions. And I believe that there's another committee hearing on March 26th.
Correct.
And that will determine whether the committee will approve the plan before, and then once approved, they will forward it to the council for final approval. So we're working on your comments. Oh, good afternoon, Kenny.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing? Since that's my job, I'll chime in right now with the schedule update. So the next meeting is actually going to be on March 27th. So it's Wednesday, March 27th. We have 2 meetings in a row, one on Tuesday afternoon and one on Thursday. I mean, Tuesday and Wednesday, rather. So it's going to be March 27th is when we're going to discuss the draft 2, which is the amendments that were suggested by Chair Olson based on the SWAC's comments that were received. So that's what's happening. And soon as we get the amendments finalized, and I can post them in the system, we can share it with you guys. And hopefully that'll be in the next day or so.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just, we're going to discuss this in another section, but just so just to remind everybody that everyone was asked to contribute comments and suggestions, and we collated those together and put them into a single document that we sent to the committee regarding the 200-something pages of the 10-year solid waste plan. So I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. Okay, so go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, next, regarding the Area C infill project, the construction of Cell C1 for the Area C will commence April this year until October 2025, and waste placement will start from November 2025. So that's on the Area C project. On the beneficial use for the landfill gas, RRD will discuss the RFI results received from several vendors, and it will be presented to the county leadership. And the next step is to post or advertise the request for proposal. And they will be based on the RFIs that were submitted by the vendors. So that's the update on the LFG.
Can the
For the
SWAC know what response were received from vendors?
Barbara, sorry, say that again.
Can the SWAC be informed of what responses, or at least how many responses were received from vendors on the RFI?
I will ask Martin, yes, but I think we can provide a summary of what were submitted.
Can I inquire, Kevin, since they're going to start work now on the infill? I've had this discussion with you about the removal of the trees along Brown Station Road and the buffer. Is the buffer going to be put back in place before the work starts on the new cell, or are we going to have to wait until the cell is completed before the buffer's returned? Because right now, anybody drives down Brown Station Road, all you see is the landfill. There is no buffer left. The trees are gone. The shrubs are gone. The underbrush is gone. It's just the big berm.
I think the fencing will be done simultaneously because the area C construction will start next month. So I think it will be done simultaneously,
I
Charles.
understand about the fencing, but the fencing is a see-through fence. I'm talking about the buffer, so it's not so visible.
I will check on that, Charles, and I will get back to you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
How many
Thank
of you have driven down Brown Station Road recently and seen it since they've taken down the trees? Yeah,
No.
it's very visible now. I mean, before it was visible, but now it's really visible. There's not a tree standing. There's not any buffer. There's no buffer for noise or dust or dirt. or visual.
Hmm. Yeah, is there any kind of requirement for landfill management to have some type of green buffer?
They just had a presentation to the Park and Planning Department before the planning board concerning the tree restoration there, so I'm sure there must be. There's a site plan that it has to go through. And I'm sure the buffer was part of the site plan.
There is a requirement, Nancy, for buffer areas to separate the landfill from, for example, the residential community. So that's a requirement for landfill.
So the trees were taken down in the service of the construction, is that, and so those regulations aren't
They were, no,
enforced?
they were bad trees, Nancy. They needed
Okay.
to be replaced. I mean, many of them were bad. They were
Okay,
either, broken off or, you go up 8 or 10 feet before you had any tree really because of the nature of the trees. They were very old trees. I think most of them were probably original trees. And it was probably time to replace them. It's just a question of when they're going to get replaced and what caliber of tree they're going to put in there to make sure that we really have the buffer for the community, because there are residents right there.
so okay, great, that's very helpful. So Kevin, do you know, is there a timeline for the replacement of that buffer?
I will check. I will get back on
Okay,
this on the buffer plan.
Okay.
Yes.
okay, great, thank you.
Mhm. Okay, on the bicycle reuse program, our recycling based on our last meeting, our recycling section has distributed survey forms to the key bike groups in the DMV region, and to date, out of the 6 that were given the survey questionnaire, we have received 3
Mhm.
responses, Nancy.
Yes,
And we will provide a summary once we receive all the responses, and we will share them with you.
yeah, I've been getting information from Edward, so I've
Okay,
read the surveys. Yeah, it's very helpful.
okay. And
So,
then we can set up the meeting for the next steps.
yeah, I think that probably needs to happen fairly soon. I think we're.
Mhm. So I think that's my updates, Nancy.
Okay, any questions specifically to Kevin on any of the resource recovery division work? Okay.
Barbara,
These updates are very helpful, Kevin. Thank you for doing them.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions.
Okay,
I'll try to keep them short. On the, I just saw something today. I got something through my email actually late this afternoon. I haven't a chance to really look at it, but a group called Industrious Labs has done a study, and they say in 38 of the 50 states, the largest industrial source of methane is landfills.
Mhm.
And I haven't had a chance to look at the Maryland or find out if Maryland is in that group, but even if Maryland isn't in the group, methane is a problem in most of the country. So I think it's very timely that we do everything we can do to reduce methane that's being generated at our landfill, and composting and some other things we're doing may help that. And I also want to ask Kevin this, on the RFI for the beneficial use of methane gas, I had mentioned this to you in the last day or two. I came up with some information from the Maryland Energy Administration that they have a fund of, I think it was like $9 million to do some type of work to reduce gas use. And I mentioned the fact that the pipeline, which has been out of use for a long time, if that might be a possible place where we could get some funding to fix that pipeline. And I'd just like to mention that to the other commissioners, because there might be some money out there, and I don't know if that would go into a final proposal by one of these companies right now that is coming up with this, I guess, some possible ways of dealing with methane and finding beneficial uses. But I think that's something we should be looking at, because there may be some state money that could help us.
So, Dave, RRD is looking at various sources to help in the LFG pipeline project. I think that will be considered in the RFP. So, yeah, we're looking at various sources, internal and external, to have this project realized. So, yeah, I will convey that state grant to RRD as well.
Okay, thank you.
So Kevin, I hope this is appropriate, but when you were out observing us doing the compost waste sort, I asked you about development support for Resource Recovery Division, and you mentioned you thought that the department was planning to hire a fundraising person. I don't know, and that's been, I think, a concern that a number of commissioners have had, and it was, I think we included that in the 10-year solid waste plan comments. They may not have focused on that, but I was very, very pleased to hear that the department, so if we can confirm that the department plans to hire somebody, and of course.
There was a
Yeah,
thing in the
that's-
paper about also Brooks putting basically a halt on any hires, so I don't know if that's going to impact anything. Irrespective of what DOE wants to do, they might not be allowed to do so.
So go ahead, Bill.
No, I was just going to say it was in the paper 2 days ago, something like that.
Yep. But we interviewed candidates for the position because RRD wants to strengthen the grant capacity and source funds grants from federal and state sources. So yeah, we have interviewed the candidates.
So is that correct what Bill said, that, so you're in the middle of the process, so the process is currently on hold until that hiring freeze is lifted? Is that correct?
I'm not sure, Nancy. I was just part of the panel, but I'm not aware of the freeze hiring yet.
Yeah,
But,
usually
we're
when
in-
you
we're-
see something, guys,
Yeah.
especially if it's something that was in a recent article, that's about the upcoming fiscal year. Usually,
Oh,
that's
okay.
how they do it. So if Kevin and them are in the middle of something, that's dealing with the current fiscal year.
Great.
So
Great.
Okay,
probably talking
good,
about
great.
different
So
funds.
Kevin, what do you think the timeline is for that decision and hire?
It will be soon, Nancy. It will be soon.
Okay, great. Okay, that's really good news. Okay, anything else on the report from anybody? Okay. Then we'll move on to committee reports. We'll start with the Greenhouse Gas Committee, and that's Dave. Want to give us an update on some of this is going to be overlap, but some not.
Yeah, one thing I would like to mention is we are now in the process of working with a student group at the University of Maryland, and what we'd like to do is do a survey of a area close to the university, which is called College Heights Estates, and there's I think 225 houses in that area. And what we were thinking about doing was to actually spread the surveys to the entire community, ask questions about how they're doing in terms of composting, what they know about it. And that's a series of 10 or 15 questions. And then with the university students, we're going to do an analysis of that and then get us the information. We think we have about 6 or 7 people who may help us to distribute these surveys. The survey itself is still not quite complete, but it's pretty close. The students are out on their annual, I think, spring vacation, but we'll be back soon. And what we'd like to do would be to distribute these flyers and then hopefully get a lot of data back that the students are analyzing and get back to us. And we think this is a good way of starting to look at how effective the compost program is, and if there are shortcomings or things that are really going well with it. So that's something that's in the works, and we should probably have a full report by early May, because that's when the students will be graduating.
Dave, is that community like normal people, or is it a lot of student housing, so to speak?
It's actually it's a residential community. There may be some students in there, but it's primarily a residential community. It's
Okay.
fairly upscale. I think it would be good to maybe do this again in some other parts of the county where maybe we have a higher Hispanic population, or just maybe lower income groups, because this is a fairly well-to-do community. But we thought it was be a starting point, and we have I live right nearby, and it's and the students also are right there, so we thought that might be a good place to start.
So Dave, hopefully that data can also inform our response to the Resource Recovery Division in and their communication folks. So, because there's the way the survey set up will provide information about people's knowledge, interest, and ability to deal with composting. So it should be very informative for the outreach committee. Okay, do you want to talk about Russ, the study?
Oh yeah, we only had I think it was just 3 of us from the commission was at a presentation that Russ Dickerson, a neighbor actually of mine in University Park, who also is a professor at the University of Maryland and has been studying air quality, including methane, for a number of years. They do flyovers they have a plane. They also do reports and gather information and data. They have a vehicle that actually also measures methane in the immediate vicinity of where the car is going. And they've been doing this all over the state. He made a really very in-depth report of what they've been doing, including had kind of a slideshow. It was really good. I think we're going to try to get that presentation. He said he has to do some things to it, but he's going to get us the presentation, and we'd be glad to share that with the other commissioners and of course DOE and anybody else who might find it worthwhile or helpful. But he's actually a really great resource, because they're working on methane, and they've got equipment to do the testing. So it was a really good report, a good presentation.
And you guys all remember Russ. He has been at least twice to present here at various SWAC meetings to us.
Okay. Dave, anything else?
I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, great. Nyla, can you give us an update on outreach? Can you hear me? Nyla? Okay. All right, well, I'll skip over her.
Oh, wait a sec. As one of the members of the committee, if she isn't here, let me then follow up on what Kevin had said of asking for the SWAC help in messaging, and Nancy saying that should go to this Education and Outreach Committee. How do we go about moving forward with that? Kevin?
We will reach out to Nyla, Barbara, set up a meeting and to discuss on how we will go about the messaging, the collective, drafting or conceptualization of the messages for the food waste. So I will get in touch with Nyla first.
Okay. Okay, so thanks, Barbara. So the legislative committee basically, at this point was basically work I took on to follow through from our last meeting when we had unanimously approved our support for 4 different pieces of state legislation. One of them was the bottle bill, which we, on behalf of SWAC, we sent a letter of support to both the Senate side and the House side. I inadvertently left off Commissioner Matigu's name, but I actually sent a correction to them subsequently, which I felt like gave me an opportunity again to just have a chance to get in front of somebody's eyes about the bill. The other one was the mattress stewardship bill, which I also sent to the appropriate committees. I sent the information in support, and I drafted material from some of the research I've been doing and also from the Sierra Club fact sheets that Martha's provided that all of you have seen, which have been very helpful. The other 2 pieces, one has to do with it's another plastics related bill, and the other one is the turf tracking bill. I am in the process of drafting the turf one and waiting for the word from Martha. Monday was what they call the crossover day in the legislature. So bills move from either the House to the Senate or the Senate to the House. It's a very busy time, and I'm waiting to hear from her about when and which committee will be hearing what additional legislation. And so as I hear what those are, I will finish drafting the material and we'll send them out on our behalf. So, and I think this is, and I've made a couple phone calls and talked to some people. So I think it's been really helpful for us and important for us to weigh in on these issues. And the reuse committee, basically, Bill and myself and a volunteer, we had one meeting with the recycling section, which was Edward and Jessica, I think, if that's correct, Kevin, Jessica.
Yes.
Anyway, Edward's been really great. He worked on pulling together, we gave suggestions for the survey and he has sent the survey out. It's been collecting the information. So the idea is to look how to develop an infrastructure in the county where we could collect and refurbish bicycles and then redistribute them to people in need. So and we're in the process of sort of figuring out what's out there right now and who we might be able to partner with and what program, what works, what doesn't work, and really in a learning process to understand how we might help facilitate this through the county. So that's been really great project. Okay, so that it? I think that's it for the committees at the moment. Been pretty busy. Let's see, what time is it? So it's great. We're gonna end early tonight, I think. I wanted to mention the 10-year solid waste plan. Like I said before, we had collected, and this is where I really want to encourage people who did not submit material. We really need your engagement and involvement in either a committee or in some of these processes. I would like to set up, and I'm not going to figure out how we're going to do this tonight, but I would like us to set up an ongoing 10-year solid waste committee. It'll be renewed again in 3 years, but I felt like it was a very rushed process for us, and it's important. One of the things that came up in this conversation, that there are essentially 3 different documents that the county's working off. One is a 10-year solid waste plan, one is a resource recovery management plan, and the other is a zero waste plan. They are not integrated plans. We did suggest that the department think about creating an operating plan that encompassed material from all 3 of those plans. So, and what I like to suggest is that we, in conversation with the county, is figure out how to make some of that happen. And part of that, I think, is also to improve and continually work on the 10-year solid waste plan as an ongoing project of the commission. So,
and I would like to concur with what Nancy says or emphasize the importance of that, especially since the zero waste plan and the resource plan are both, excuse me, from 2018.
Right.
So 6 years old now, under a different administration, have not been updated. So one has no feeling of what amount of that there's really any commitment to.
Yeah.
It really needs to be, and it says in the 10-year solid waste plan that they're updated annually, or one of them is. But we were told that it's not been up, and that you can't find on the website anything about it being updated since 2018 initial writing. So I think it would be important to know what the current thinking of DOE is on those matters.
Yeah, I think that internally there's been probably, valuable conversation that's happened about these plans, but there needs to be some kind of formal process. Like Barbara, you mentioned, I think that's really important to really be updating and being on top of this and combining, these efforts together. What is it that the zero waste plan is calling for? Does that mesh with what the 10-year solid waste plan says? And why don't we have something that's just a more unified approach to the work? In the end, I think we're looking for the same results. So it seemed that having the plans need to be coordinated and probably unified in some kind of way. So, and also, I also want to thank Barbara, significantly worked in a lot of depth and detail to pull out a lot of critical information, and David and Bill also helped a lot, and but Barbara did a really significant amount of work. So thank you, Barbara. That was really
Thank you.
appreciated. And
Glad
then
to.
I massaged it into the document that was submitted. But it was spent a lot of time. I think we all spent a lot of time with the document. So and it guides what the department does. So it's really important, and it's required by the state. So anyway, that's the 10-year solid waste plan. We will, maybe by the next meeting or two, we will set up another group somehow that will look to be working on this regularly. And the last item I have on our agenda is the budget. Kenny just sent some information, which I saw in the chat. I was trying to go back and forth.
Yep.
That on
So-
April 25th. So go ahead. If you could explain a little bit about this, that'd be really
Sure.
helpful.
Sure, I will. So what I did was I sent Nancy earlier an email that shows the committee's schedule on when TIEE is going to consider DOE's budget, and that is on April 25th. And so what I did was I copied the whole email and I put it in the chat. So you guys have it there. I also forwarded the email to all of the members, so you should have it in your emails as well. So you have the committee's activity on DOE's budget, but you also have a list of the county council's scheduled public hearings. And so those public hearings are on WSSC's budget, Park and Planning's budget, and also put in bold the public hearings on the county's budget, which DOE's budget is included in. And so you've got the county operating budget public hearing is scheduled for Monday, April 29th, 2024 at 6 p.m. And then there's another hearing on Tuesday, May 7th, 2024 at 6 p.m. And of course, all of these public hearings are in the county administration building over in Largo. And budget adoption is scheduled for Thursday, May 23rd, 2024. So, and I also included some links in that information that show where you can click on. The clerk of the council has a page where you can check and see what meetings and hearings are coming up. And there's also, and that's just a calendar agenda page, but you also have a link where you can register to sign up for public hearings. And usually that second link, you can use it somewhere between 2 weeks prior to a hearing. They make the links available for you to see that the meeting is happening, and also to register, sign up to speak, or to submit testimony.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's great. Thank you for all that information.
Yes. And so look, as the council's appointee to this group, you know, you guys can use me to find information, and I will try to share information as soon as I have it with the group. But if you ever have any questions about anything that the council is doing, you know, we work with Kevin, and you know, what's going on the exec side, you know, they can help with that. But information on what the council is doing or planning to do, you know, because the calendar gets really challenging for these next couple of months while we're trying to continue, you know, the regular legislative business of the council, as well as the budget review. So
Okay.
that's where we are. And that's why we have 2 meetings next week, on Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday morning, when we usually meet on Thursdays, because they moved us. So
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. Really
are
appreciate
welcome.
that. So we will send out a link to the specific, I presume within DOE, there's a specific section on Resource Recovery Division, and I will try to find that and send that out, and then develop some mechanism for us to again solicit input and feedback, so we can provide additional feedback on the budget to the county, to the TIE committee, and then to the county council.
So Kenny, let me just ask, if the meeting where one could speak on the budget is on Tuesday, the 7th. Okay, and and the adoption is not till May. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so there's two weeks in between. Okay, so it's possible that us saying of how important it is that resource recovery has enough budget to get out information to citizens on how to use these wonderful new programs that have been instituted by the council and by the DOE. Because I mean, like, the council went to a lot of effort to put through the legislation of the bags and straws and all of those things. But unless there is publicity to the citizens and to the and obviously also the composting, but to the citizens, to the businesses, really to make them want to participate. It's problematic. I mean, it's shooting themselves in the foot if the council doesn't put up enough money to get the information out there in a way that really people are receptive to.
Well, I think that you know, to DOE's credit, they are doing the best they can with what they have to get the word out. But for the council to put up money might be a bit of a stretch there. That's not actually how it works.
Or at,
doesn't have any money to put up. But
at least,
but I understand
at
what
least
you're
not
saying.
take away. At
But
least
no,
not take away.
No, absolutely. And I want you to understand that the council, through the committee and the full council during the budget process, is constantly, and you know, I got to say, Kevin and Marilyn, they're enduring constant pressure from the council members about doing the best they can. We had the deputy director was at a meeting. Matter of fact, when we met first time on the solid waste plan, there was, you know, really close focus on those types of issues, and you know, how they're using what they have. They talked about the hiring situation, and you know, so the council's got to look at the entire budget, and you know, everybody, you know, needs more money to do their you know, accomplish their missions better. And you know, at the end of the day, we got to figure out how to do the things best with what we have. So you know, your message is definitely getting delivered through the council during the budget deliberations. And at the end of the day, it's like, where does the money come from? we usually end up having to take it from somewhere else. So,
Yeah. So Kenny, I think that I want to say, I think that what I've heard in the conversations and discussion of the commission members is a great appreciation for the work, you know, that Marilyn and Kevin and the whole team at
Absolutely.
the facilities. And I mean, it's very clear that the staff are, you know, really a yeoman's effort, have done an incredibly good job and are working very hard. And our job, you know, and, you know, I'm a big supporter of other issues, but my job
Yes, you do.
here is to say,
Got to do it.
right, our job here is to say what's important here are these issues. And as we pointed out, I think in the 10-year solid waste plan, and what Barbara just raised, is this double-edged sword between, you know, you have a piece of legislation, but then, you know, in order to educate and do the outreach, it really takes resources. And the other flip side of that, which she has also discussed a lot, and Chuck was talking about too, and some other folks, is that the enforcement side. And it's also very clear that the department is not strong, you know, and the team, you know, there's just not enough support for the public education piece, and along with the enforcement piece. There's a weakness there, and we see that.
There can always be more. You're right.
Yeah. And,
Absolutely.
you know, I think everyone's also aware that the county, you know, with the county and the state too, struggling to figure out these budgets with the Kerwin situation. There's just a high pressure, you know, for these funds to go into the education system, which we need. No one disagrees with that. So you're right. It's a contestation of all these sort of forces, you know, and needs. So,
And I don't know if the commission members get to see those committee meetings, because I mean, the things that you're saying right now, the committee members are absolutely saying the exact same thing, and we get into detail and press the agency for as much detail as they can provide on what they can do, what challenges they have, how the council can help. You got council members willing to help put out some of the information, and we had in the discussion, there were follow-ups about how, you know, the council members can help push this stuff out through their own individual websites and through and we were talking about videos, we were talking about social media, we were talking about the whole thing. So you 100%, Nancy, you know, everybody sees this and understands the challenges. We also talked about the potential need for some tweaking and clarification on just the issue you talked about with the carry out at the restaurants. And then because some of the language is kind of, it's a little fuzzy. And so we may need to tighten it up to make sure that the restaurants understand what the deal is. So
yeah, it's good. I mean, I do feel like they're hearing, you know, I was very, very pleased with, you know, getting concerns and people concerned about what's some of the issues we raised in the 10-year plan. And I feel like, you know, everyone's rowing in the same direction. I think some of us would like us to row a lot faster, but you know, there's only
some better rows in a better boat, right?
Right. Well, yeah, well, there's that exactly.
We get it. We get it. Believe me.
Exactly. So okay. So that's all.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sorry.
No.
Nancy, can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah. So I echo what Kenny has said, that during the committee hearing, the members really highlighted the importance of education and outreach. And they asked DOE to be creative and innovative in terms of, you know, conveying our messages to the public. So within the bounds of our budget, of course, given the limited budget that we have. So yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I mean, that's what we like. Yeah. And I think we can get there, you know, and I think, you know, we all can help with that. And as Barbara and some of other commissioners have mentioned, you know, we'll see what we can do to, you know, weigh in. And I do know that some of the council members, Kenny, when talking to council member Olson and a few others, that people right away said, let us know how we can place stuff in our publications and this and that. So there's a lot of discussion about, you know, how we can really improve the outreach process. So
Absolutely.
Yep,
Absolutely.
okay, well, great, that's great, okay. So, I think we're at the end of our, time. If we have nothing else, but are there any announcements? Anything additional people need to know about? No, okay. I will be back in touch about the budget, so, please keep eyes and ears looking for that. Okay, well.
Yep.
Good meeting, everybody. Kevin, I had asked you about, and I'm now blanking on what, we were gonna have somebody come. I can't remember who it was now. I have to look at my notes. Do you remember? And it was too short notice, but now I can't remember what it was. And then we talked about doing it for April.
Oh, okay. Regarding the new MDE regulations on methane.
Yes, that's it. Okay, yes, okay.
So, yeah, we will be able to make a presentation about it in
Okay.
April.
Okay, great. So there's the new regs, and so we will have someone come and talk to us about the new methane regulations in April. So that'll be really good to have more detailed information. And Kevin will follow up. There was a lot of questions, including the issues around the buffer zone and timeline and some other things. So we'll look forward to hearing from you about that. And okay, everybody have a nice evening. We're a little early. That's always a good thing.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
All right, thanks,
Thank you.
folks.
Bye.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much, all.
Lisa. Thanks for coming.